One of them being a Rek'Sai. We've seen a little bit of Rek'Sai goodness going on in previous previous weeklies or previous tournaments in general. I believe a
Mhm.
Rek'Sai managed to get 5th place in the invitational. So I believe
Yeah.
Rek'Sai a little bit of a sleeper pick in the current meta, but a legend we haven't seen in a very long time, a fan favorite, is gonna be Teemo. So Teemo versus Rek'Sai, those are the legends we have going and battling it out here in our round 2. Are you excited for this matchup, RMC?
Well, plus with Teemo, I feel like you love him or you love to hate him.
Right.
You know what? I'm not a huge fan of Teemo from League of Legends. I'm not a huge fan of Teemo from Riftbound either. His hidden cards are so annoying, but into set 2, it's interesting because I feel like Teemo can be built any way you want him, even in set 1. Whether you want to run him, Mundo style with big trash, whether you want to run him with hidden cards, whether you wanted to run the Nocturne style of play. He had so many options. He's so versatile. And
Yeah.
coming to set 2, even more so. And he's blue purple, so you can run him with all the sort of the purple cards, which feel the chaos cards just feel so strong in set 2. He can run a lot of them. So I'm very curious to see how Rixcee is going to be piloting their Teemo.
As RMC said, Rixie up at the top with the Teemo, and then Rek'Sai down at the bottom. Both on Zone Warren. So I was telling RMZ we're going to see a whole lot of discarding going on in our game number 1 of this round number 2.
Yeah, both of these players, kind of going to be burning through their decks. Just to confirm, plus, should we be able to see the hidden cards or?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Let's go ahead and flip that over. And there we are. I forgot we were doing the whole visible field of view. You get to see everything in each player's hand. And we're seeing a lot of goodies in both of these hands.
Yeah, I feel like the for Heretic, their hands are a little bit more standard, I guess. We're used to seeing these sort of cards, a lot of set 1 cards. Interesting Forge of the Future. And we were talking a little bit about the Forge of Future plus in the break, and I was surprised that we're seeing Forge of Future, but you were telling me it's really good to get cards out of trash, out of your opponent's trash specifically. And I'm seeing Rixie's running Lost Rites, so it looks like, hey, that Forge of Future might see some good use in this matchup.
Yeah, I think so. In this current meta, there's a lot of cards that kind of get brought back. One of them being, as you mentioned, the Last Rite, able to bring a unit when you conquer or hold. You also have cards like Fizz that are able to bring back spells from the discard. So I think Last Rite, or not Last Rite, but the Forge is in a decent position right now. But the Call of the Week gonna be taking out the opposing unit. Actually, wait, just taking out
That's
your own treasure hoarder, or not treasure hoarder, but on his broker it is, just to get a nice little gold token there.
Okay, I mean that plus an also, I guess you're kind of able to still get a unit up there. You're just generating that gold to go. But plus, I just realized that was a pit crew that Rixie played. So pit crew is when you play a gear, ready me, and
Right.
drop border is when you control 2 more gears, ready me. Gear Teemo? Is that a
Yeah.
thing?
A gear/equipment Teemo looks to be the game plan up at the top. So this should be interesting to say the least. We see one of them being Last Right, but so far the other cards pretty standard of Teemo builds. We see the
Yeah.
Tide Turner, we see the Monk. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this drop border, we don't get to see it too often, especially in Teemo decks where I'm used to seeing more top borders in. They're in the Ornn decks, which are huge, heavy gear focused decks. So I'm curious to see, besides Last Right, what other gears is this Teemo running? Can you think of any off the top of your head right now?
I mean, any gear technically would work, but none of them I feel like particularly work with you. Like maybe Edge of Night, because that's the hidden one that you can play from hidden and attach to something right away. But that's the only sort of hidden gear I can think of at the top of my head. So I'm really curious, if anybody in chat maybe knows sort of the idea behind a gear Teemo. It's just that when you're running drop border, um, and you're running pit crew, like I like the idea of being able to accelerate and kind of sneak onto stuff really quickly and then set up all your hidden cards, but you kind of got to get the gears out to do that, and I fear that that does set you behind. You're already seeing that the board presence for Rixie has just been kind of just wiped clean off, and you don't have that units, you can't get on. And meanwhile, Heretic's already setting up massive board presence, a lot of defensive measures to come through, has the Dares in hand as well as spells to try and take out anything that wants to walk up to these battlefields.
Yeah, we saw it really well displayed in the Invitational. Rek'Sai just had so much removal almost to the like of that Prison Victor we've seen so much of lately in set 2 that has basically only spell cards to get rid and fully control your opponent. But Rek'Sai
Mhm.
getting it done by the Rek'Sai Legend ability, seeing the top 2 cards and you're able to play it. Of course, you still have to pay the full cost for those cards, but it's essentially like you're playing with, in this situation, a hand of 5 versus the current hand of 3. So going up to 3 points, Rek'Sai taking the early lead, and Teemo's not really a deck that you kind of come back from behind, but he has some good units. Playing out the Ember Monk as unit number 1, perhaps thinking about this last right just to set it up down the road, because right now you can't really play any hidden cards as you don't have any control over these battlefields yet.
Yeah, and just trying to set up some board presence, getting all those units down. But that goes back to what we were talking about, plus the fact that as a Teemo, you wanted to play fast. You wanted to get onto the battlefields as quickly as you can. And now that you can't, Ember Monk is going to be 4 plus whatever you're putting on there. If you put on the last rights, it goes up to a 6. But you want it to have the hiddens to be able to boost it up. Interestingly enough, Heretic's actually pulling back completely right now. Doesn't want to leave any units on the board and potentially have it go down. So would rather kind of just play safe. You're 4 points ahead right now, so you can definitely take your own sweet time to set this one up. Take one more steal, steal one more point, pardon me, and then get up to that 6, and then look for the finish with the Darius. But you have to be so careful about giving up that space to allow these hiddens to come through.
Yeah, decides to just go ahead and establish that Phoenix onto the board just to have a really good push going forward on the next turn. But a Stupefy coming out just to see a little bit more cards available for the Teemo. Is going to be picking up the hard bargain, not going to be doing all too much, but he does have control of one battlefield. But in this situation, there's not really any good hidden cards. Wages of Pain is about as good as you can get. You're able to hide that onto the Zone Warrens. You could technically pick up your Teemo with the Teemo Legend ability to try to hide it again, but there's no Bandle trees. You can only hide one card at a time. So I think Wages of Pain might just be the best bet, but another Stupefy coming out into Nox's Hopeful's direction. And I saw a Traveling Merchant. Where did that come from?
Was that the card that was meant to be drawn? I don't know where that popped out from for a second there. Oh,
the last right? Wait. He's confusing us a little bit. He playing... Oh, okay.
okay, there we go.
That's what it was. He's recycling for last right, because last right reads not only do you pay a chaos, you recycle 2. So those are the 2 he recycled from the discard. Goes ahead and pushes forward with Teemo, conquering the other battlefield and picking up a draw from the Zone Warrens. Is going to be okay. We're seeing another little gear from Teemo, the Swifties, the Boots of Swiftness, which is pretty good. I feel like a ganking ability on your creatures is pretty good, especially considering the fact how tall Ember Monks can get sometimes.
Okay, and this is why I was getting a little bit worried. Plus, that Heretic decided to back out completely. I understand wanting to keep your units alive and kind of being able to control that, but now you've got hidden cards popping out the wazoo. I really like the Zon Warrens instead of the Ember Monk, and then bring it back with the last rights. And now you've got the hidden card. Now these Ember Monks are going to go to +2, go up to 6 if you're attacking in, and trying to actually score these points gets a lot more complicated. We talked about for how Heretic, if they could sneak one more point, they're in a good position. Being at 6 is great. Being at 5 kind of stinks, because you really need to it's going to take you 2 more turns to be able to conquer up. And now, damned if you, damned if you don't. How much are you willing to spend to actually get up onto that board?
Yeah, speaking of what kind of stinks for the Teemo player, a pickup is a Falling Star for Rek'Sai, which is not what this Teemo wants to see, because not only do you have a Falling Star, you also have a Piercing Light to follow things up, so you could kind of get a Falling Star. Choose the Teemo and the Tide Turner. The Ember Monks you could be a little bit careful about because of that hidden card, the Wages of Pain. I know, just to reiterate, guys, it looks like it's up and about, but it's hidden. It's just to the nature of how TCGA does it. We have to reveal everything, including the rune decks, as you guys see here, and the hidden cards. So keep in mind, guys, this is still a hidden card. So Rek'Sai down below doesn't have any idea that's exactly Wages of Pain, but the Piercing Light choosing the 2 targets on the Zone Warrens on the left-hand side, Teemo and Ember Monk. Thankfully, Wages of Pain going to be targeting its own Teemo just to get, I believe, 2 tokens if you target yourself, or am I thinking of another card?
No, that's a different card. Wages of Pain is just just deal 3 and play a gold gear. And that's the unfortunate part about hiding Wages of Pain is that if you do use it, it has to have a target. So
Hmm.
in this case, unfortunately, yeah, you kind of take your own things out. You've got to reveal the hidden, and now Heretic is going to be able to walk up and take that Tide Turner out with a decent amount of confidence, knowing that hey, I'm probably going to be okay. So we're going to see the Phoenix being moved up right now.
Wow.
You need some sort of combat trick with. Wait. Oh, the damage from the light slinger or piercing light, of course. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so
I'm
yeah,
seeing
able to clear both.
I was just gonna say I'm seeing really good synergy because of that Immortal Phoenix coming in ready to reread Rek'Sai
Mhm.
Breacher's champion tags. Friendly units played from anywhere other than your hand have accelerate.
Yeah.
Immortal Phoenix coming in from the discard from that piercing light, taking out those units, comes in ready. Fantastic set of events going on for Rek'Sai, being able to conquer both of these battlefields, bringing them up to bringing her up, I should say, to 7 total points. And to make matters worse for Teemo, that's a double falling star. I don't think Teemo's going to be able to establish any kind of units onto their board with so much removal. And it looks like he saw the
Yep.
same picture we're seeing there. That Teemo was never able to establish any kind of battlefield presence where they weren't able to hide their units that they tend to really benefit from hiding. And that's exactly what we saw in game one. Falling Star, Piercing Light, even a Vengeance able to be played out. But let's see. I mean, I would imagine Teemo would probably come prepared to at least face the likes of Kai'Sa in today's tournament. So I would imagine they have something to kind of come, as I said, prepared for those kind of matchups. Granted, Kai'Sa tends to be another beast when it comes to removal. So I don't know. This could just be, as you mentioned, a decently bad matchup for Teemo. But let's see if he can at least take a game off Rek'Sai while he's on the play.
The problem is if you don't have like Singularity, how are you hitting base as a Teemo?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. The Singularity probably the only option to try to take down those bigger units. In this position, only if he did have it, of course, he would need a little bit down the road, only going to be targeting a recruit. But I think Singularity is one of the best cards right now, especially considering the fact that Draven is kind of running rampage. You're able to target things like a Draven. You're able to target the Dariuses, the Kaisers. So not so much in this matchup, but Singularity alone, I would imagine Teemo's for sure running 2, maybe even 3 of in his deck.
Yeah, it'd be nice to, but again, I don't know what Rixie's cooking, right? Like we saw the drop orders, we saw what was it, Pit Crew come through, and we know that there's Last Rites, there's Boots of Swiftness. Again, I'm going to assume Edge of Night is in that deck. We do see the Boots of Swiftness available for Rixie, and I think for Rixie, much more importantly, you're actually on the board this time a little bit faster. You've got the Teemo up there. You've got the Sand Soldiers coming through. One thing we didn't talk about, the battlefields. Emperor's Days. I don't know how to pronounce that word. But when you conquer there, basically you can play, or you can return a unit you control back to its owner's hand. And then if you do that, you get to create a Sand Soldier. And I think that Sand Soldier, what we saw in game one, it can be very, very useful, especially if you are playing around gears, which seems to be what Rixie wants to do.
Yeah, interesting. You're so right. We haven't seen that battlefield get played in one of our tournaments before. As you said, when you conquer here, you may pay 1 energy, return a unit you control. So this favors Teemo in the sense that you're able to get those Teemo champions back to hand to hide them down the line. And if you do so, you get a Sand Soldier for your trouble. So not too bad. We'll see how it ends up getting played out down the line. Candlelight Sanctum, a classic battlefield in a lot of competitive decks, does get conquered from the Rek'Sai chosen champion on Rek'Sai, going up to 1 point so far. So a little bit of a slower gain coming out from Rek'Sai, because I believe game number 1, it was something like 5-1 very early on. So I think this is the kind of game plan that favors Teemo. Teemo wants to kind of slow and steady set things up, make sure you have a good, strong presence on these battlefields, and kind of just defend with all the resources you can, the Wages, the Pains, the Stupefies, the Fight or Flights that we're seeing here, are seen in the previous turn, going up to 3. Teemo's looking decently good, I want to say, in this round 2.
Yeah, oh, there we go. Edge of Night, as well as the Last Rites being shown. Those are the top cards that the Candlelit Sanctum did reveal. And plus, I think for Rixie, the gears are starting to come through. And also that the Rek'Sai moving up from Heretic feels kind of risky. You wanted to score that early point, maybe, okay, granted, we didn't see the Boots of Swiftness. I can't recall if it got played at the very end last game, but if not, maybe you weren't expecting the gank over. But to lose your chosen champion like that, especially when that was what accelerates a lot of the cards that you can play not from hand, is kind of a huge loss. A lot of times we were just talking about how do you kill the Rek'Sai? Well, I guess one way you can kill it is mind control your opponent to actually move it up to the battlefield where it's honorable.
Yeah, keep it nice and simple. And speaking of accelerate, we see a card we don't get to see too often, but before we see that card, Piercing Light, trying to take out 2 units on Teemo's board. Let's see what these targets are going to be. Most likely, I mean, the swiftness target is out of range for 2. You're not able to accelerate, or you're not able to repeat Piercing Light. You are, but it's going to cost you the entire turn, so I don't think it'll be too advantageous to do so at this very moment. But you do have to target 2 different units, so most likely targets are going to be that Teemo and the Tide Turner, I would imagine. And oh man, the Teemo player is wishing they had... Actually, I keep getting confused with the rune deck. I thought he had 3 runes. I was going to say he wishes he had 1 more rune for the hard bargain on repeat, but only has 1 for hard bargain, so not using it just yet since Rek'Sai would be able to pay for that. Pushes forward. Most likely going to conquer, but Teemo saving those 2 runes for the fight or flight. He's being aggressive with defending these battlefields, right?
Yeah, and like we said, I think that is what a Teemo wants to do, right? You get on board, you've got all the combat tricks, whether it be hidden cards or cards from hand, just to try and keep things alive as much as possible. And unfortunately, it looks like for Heretic, the fact that you kind of just sat there with that 1 recruit, the fact that you had to use the chosen champion that early it's kind of rough. It's not ideal whatsoever. So it kind of signals as well to Rixcee that you don't have a lot of units available. If I can kick whatever you have there off, then I'm going to be able to sit comfortable. Like, it's a great position to be in for Rixcee.
Oh, and able to play out the Forge because the last Void, or Void Rush, I should say. That's the name of the signature spell for Rek'Sai. Because of the last Rush, or Void Rush, able to decrease the cost of a spell or a unit or a card period by 2. So Forge of the Future game played out for free. So essentially able to remove 4 cards each, right? 8 total cards. So Teemo not going to be able to be digging around from this last right too good, I will say, down the road if he decides to activate those Forge of the Futures.
Okay. The fight or flight got pinged out. I don't know.
That might have been my ping. I think we don't see their pings.
Okay.
That might have been my ping, RMC.
Okay, got it. Okay. It looks like, yeah, something got recycled out completely from the trash.
It should have been from the last right? I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Okay, yes. That makes sense. And then, yeah, bring it up. So the Fortune Future not going to be able to get use in terms of that. But the gank across once again from the Boots of Swiftness. And plus, without gear removal, I don't think Rek'Sai usually runs too much gear removal. I don't know if maybe they sideboarded it in. But that's the nice part about gear is the persistent use of it. The Boots of Swiftness allowing the constant ganks back and forth. And that Candlelit Sanctum is getting so much use, I feel like, from both of these players because they're just contesting it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Candlelight Sanctum, just a good battlefield in general, able to get good value on any single unit, but a good hit off the top from the Rek'Sai ability, the Falling Star. That should be more than enough because right now the last right is going to bring you up to exactly 6 total, and right now you have enough for a hard bargain, but Rek'Sai will have enough runes to pay for that. But he's still going to be deploying it out anyway, saying, you know what, if you want this Falling Star to go through, I will make you tap 2 more runes for it. That way you're not able to get out this Immortal Phoenix you probably want to get out.
Okay, and yeah, Rixie's really making Heretic pay the cost there in order to try and remove things over and over. And the sick part is, last rights, Boost of Swiftness, +2 for each of those gears. Well, the gears didn't die, so now you can attach them to the Teemo next turn, and he's going to have 5 strength, move him up 5 might, and still be able to contest. And because of the hard bargain, Heretic still can't get units on the board.
Yeah, because there's nothing that could come out for 1. At the bare minimum, you are able to hide a Hidden Blade if you want to on the recruit side, just so that at the very least, you could probably deploy it on the Teemo, but in this situation, you probably don't want to give Teemo any more cards, so I wouldn't be I wouldn't hate the play of kind of killing your own recruit token, drawing 2 more cards, But in that situation, you're almost a bit spoiled with riches because your hand size is
Yeah.
pretty healthy so far. So you don't necessarily need the extra card draw. Just something to be considered of for the Rek'Sai. But pushing forward the recruit, going up to, I believe, 3 total points, finds a Void Seeker and an Honest Broker. Can't play those. So down to the bottom they go. And most likely going to be passing it over to Teemo. This Teemo's looking decently good. You're able to attach both of those units, pushing forward and looking at Rek'Sai's hands. There is not a single thing he can do about it unless he does want to hide the hidden blade, which I feel like it wouldn't be too exciting to do for Rek'Sai, because as I said, you probably don't want to give too many cards to the Teemo player.
Yeah, and if anything, right now the issue for Heretic is not hand size. It's not needing to draw more cards. It's his econ, right? Like he's got 3 runes. That's it. He needs more runes to actually be able to play those units. He's got a Darius in hand. He's got a Mortal Phoenix in hand. He's got a Xin Zhao in hand. But none of those are coming out right now because he just doesn't have the runes. Now, Hidden Blade is being hidden. I don't know about this. Plus, it's kind of risky. I think he's trying to hold the Emperor's Dais. Perhaps, try and hold those points. But yeah, seeing him kind of hiding that right now down to 2 runes is really going to come back and bite him. And then you look over to Rixcee, just having drawn the Thousand-Tailed Watchers, 7 runes on the board. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to play the Watcher this turn, right? You can just play other things for now. And then next turn, have the Thousand-Tailed. That's why they're only attaching the boots, because they want to be able to have those runes next turn for the Accelerated Watcher.
Yeah, very smartly played out so far, knowing exactly what you have to do. On top of that, the last right doesn't have any targets in the discard to be able to attach it, of course. So doing what you can do, you will get that Conquer. Keep in mind, though, Boots of Swiftness does have ganking, so at the very least, you're able to hold. That's to say if Rek'Sai is not able to take that Candlelight Sanctum, but as we mentioned before, they are super low on rune economy. 2 runes going up to 4 runes. You can't even play out a 5 energy Darius to try to get in there. You could maybe get out a Jing Zhao, I believe his name is. You don't have 2 units, though. I believe he reads if you have 2 extra units on your board, he comes in ready. At this very moment, you only have the 1 recruit.
Yeah, and you can see right now Rixcee just building up their board, dropping the card sharp, just going for the extra gold tokens. The gold tokens are secondary, right? You just want to have the extra units. So next turn, when you drop the Thousand-Tailed Watcher, you're able to conquer both sides. You're at 6 points, and we're looking over to Heretic with your 4 runes you're gonna have plus 1 gold token. What are you actually able to do? You don't have anything that can accelerate and actually challenge up.
And real quick, RMC, we're seeing some spice. I was asking at the top of the round when I said, what new cards is Teemo bringing into these rounds to kind of benefit from Spiritforged and a Gearhead? I have never even seen this card, but it makes sense when we're talking about this Teemo gear/equipment build. For each equipment, like the Gears of Swiftness, like the last rights we're seeing so far, it doubles its might bonus. So the Swifties would give them +4. The last rights would give them +4. So, man, I like this spiciness coming out from Teemo. I would love to see your gearhead deployed later on, maybe even in a game 3, because right now I'm eyeing the Watcher, right? The Teemo plus the Watcher with Rek'Sai only being at 4 runes. I think this Teemo holds, and even with the Teemo alone, you might be able to gank over, but you do have to be a little bit worried about the hidden blade, of course. So in that scenario, you might just have to get it done with the Watcher. But Teemo looking pretty good to send it into a game 3 nonetheless.
I think they used the hidden blade actually to. Wait, hold on. The hidden blade's gone.
For the pit crew. That's how they drew the gearhead.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the hidden blade in hand. The problem is even if you do use the hidden blade in hand, then what? Right? You don't have any resources to really do anything else. So, and that's why setting up the card sharp I feel like was so important last turn. And then you can kill the Teemo, but he's already scored, and then he's got the card sharp to move on. You technically have the Gearhead as well, who can be accelerated. Same with Thousand-Tailed. Either way to move up. Now the card's drawn, another seal. It's just not gonna do anything. And the Noxus Hopeful being played at base. I was going to say, base is not the right call here. You kind of need it up to hold. And then maybe you hidden blade to get rid of the Teemo so that you just don't, or you don't auto win on the hold. At 6 point, you can kind of potentially leave the Teemo, hide the card maybe. It's just really, really rough. And Poor Heretic. You're just playing from turn to turn right now.
Yeah, you couldn't say. I mean, absolutely right. This is a bad position for Rek'Sai. At the best you can do is hide the Hidden Blade one more time and pray he doesn't want to try to conquer both battlefields on the very next turn. But I think that is exactly what Teemo has in mind. You're able to hold with the Teemo and Candlelight going up to 7, and then with the Watcher, even if you didn't have the Watcher. Oh, another spicy card we see getting picked up off the top of the deck for Teemo. Something to be careful for the future. I mean, Rek'Sai doesn't go too wide, but I could see it getting played out down the road on this tournament, but instead going for the Watcher, getting played out with Accelerate. So even if this card Sharp wouldn't come in and beat it all, which I think in this position, it's 1-1-2 versus the 3 might coming in from the Sharp, should be enough. He has the Hidden Blade open, but the Watcher in the background saying, okay, do what you can. If you tap out, I'm going in and conquering and cleaning up the rest. Sending us to game 3 is inevitable. He needs to get the board or get the units onto the battlefield and start doing what Teemo does. So this should be a good game 3. We saw what both decks can do on the play. Now, what can they do knowing what to expect? Having their sideboards in their decks. This should be a good one.
Okay, yeah, really, really interesting. Yeah, I like the look, the sort of outline you provided there. You don't have to be a master of one necessarily, but yeah, the gold tokens just giving you so much variety. And it just really, it comes down to a lot of acceleration, and I guess like having units that can move up as soon as they are played. And unfortunately for HereticD, I would think it's worth noting that last game, they weren't able to get too many units on. It was kind of high cost in their hand, and hand got low-key bricked a little bit. Now we see the Honors Broker to start, so it looks like there's a couple more options to come through for Heretic Call of the Week. Brings me back to game 1 where they kind of just did it raw, but this time you can score a point first with the Honest Broker before you start culling left and right.
Yeah, and I love that play because Treasure Hoarder, as we mentioned before, gets that engine rolling with those gold tokens getting spawned over and over again. So pushing in with the Honest Broker first. Onto, I believe it's called Forge of the Fluff. Is this the one that reduces? No, it gives your legend Exhaust Me to attach equipment you control. So it makes sense with the equipment build Teemo's bringing here. So does he deploy the Call of the Week? I mean, it only makes sense to now that you have another Honest Broker. Oh, no, decides to just go ahead and establish a little bit more board presence going forward. This may or may not cost them. I mean, we'll see, because if he had a pit rookie, or not a pit rookie, the pit crew, it could come in ready if he was able to play it, but pushes forward, gets 1 gold token, of course, but not able to do too much other than that, unless he wants to play a little bit the way Rek'Sai just did and just develop the board, play the Tide Turner and the Teemo with the 4 remaining runes. But it's tricky. I wanted to say, okay, deciding to hide for the Teemo cost, just paying the energy.
And I think that's really interesting as well, that it is the Fight or Flight that's being hidden and not the Edge of Night in hand that's being hidden, because Edge of Night, the sort of reaction ability of it only works when you're hidden. You can't play it from hand as a reaction or even as an action. So yeah, opting kind of to just use the Fight or Flight for now to be able to bring Tide Turner back in. We'll see kind of how that goes. I get the idea of it. I think I'd have rather seen Treasure Hunter up there, because that way when you Fight or Flight, Treasure Hunter moves, you generate another gold token, vis-a-vis the Tide Turner that's just kind of like, okay, it's 2 might, but they want the 2 might, I guess, to try and force the Noxus Hopeful up. And then maybe you kick the Noxus Hopeful back instead, so that the Honest Broker would have to kind of go for a trade.
Yeah, that could be a good line. Let's see for now. The Void Rush getting played out from Rek'Sai. Options being the Hidden Blade and the Call of the Week. It looks like the Call of the Week will be the chosen card, and you do get it for free, but you still have to pay the power cost. So there's only 1 order rune, most likely going to be floating it for the time being while it gets played out. So Teemo has the option to get rid of the Treasure Hunter or the or the Tide Hunter. It looks like the choice is clear because you don't want to get rid of your Fight or Flight just yet. So having to choose the Treasure Hunter for now. But did he get rid of the order, or does it also say you don't pay the power?
Oh, you should
it's just
still...
energy, yeah.
Yeah, still have to pay the energy there. Did he have a gold token prior to that?
That could have been it. Yeah, 1 treasure, 1 Honest Broker, but he had 2 Honest Broker.
Yeah,
it
so
might
no,
have been
he didn't
that.
even have
Yeah.
the gold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not sure if he missed. Yeah, we can potentially check that. But now that he's got the gold, he can actually just use another call of the week if he wants to clear off the tide turner, and that would kick the fight or flight out of the hand at that point, and then, or pardon me, off the field at that point, because you can't dodge the call even back at base and then move up and get another thing. Basically, just try and force Rixcee to not accelerate as much as possible. Instead, it looks like they're offering a trade 2 for 2 here.
You know, I like this because game 2 went so rough for the Rek'Sai player because he was so low on runes, right? He's saying, okay, let's be a little bit more mindful with how I use my runes. I don't want to go too low too soon. So, you know, I'm going to forego the call of the week for now. Let's see if I can get the job done. But the fight or flight gets pulled out and actually going to be going on the tide turner, funny enough. That's interesting. He doesn't want to trade, but values preserving it for maybe a conquer on the other side. So this is an interesting play for Teemo.
Yeah, and I get it, right? Like, if you kick back the Honest Broker, then the Noxus Hopeful is just going to move up anyways and score. So might as well just preserve your unit. And if you just offer the trade, you're going to lose the fight or flight anyhow. So that's perfectly fine. I'm much more curious how Heretic's going to play this one out. Do you just call it to kill the Tide Turner? And that way there's no... You're forcing Rixcee to have to burn some sort of accelerate to potentially capture something, and if you don't accelerate, then you're up to 6 points to the 2, and you're in a fantastic position, especially when you've got a Hidden Blade, you've got the Falling Star as well to potentially clear anything that comes through. No, they're leaving 2 energy up, so I guess they want to have the option to Hidden Blade if needed.
Yeah, you know, I believe we got our answer from before. He was floating that order room because just to play out the Soaring Scout, he tapped the order room plus another rune to get the 2. So that order was indeed floating for now. But here he goes, the Gearhead. We don't get to see it too often. Coming in, and comes in ready, or how do you... Each equipment. Oh no, he has accelerate. Of course. How did we mix that that text line there? Accelerate, paying the 1 extra, and he comes in, should be enough to take down the Honest Broker and hides the Edge of Night on top of it. This is a decent position for Rixcee. You have the Hidden Night, and because of the recent errata, Edge of Night now equips onto the unit on the battlefield. So you're getting a +4, going up to 7 defending might. I mean, a Drag Under, though, is a fantastic card and pickup for the Rek'Sai because it doesn't matter the might if the card just reads kill a unit. Oh, but there's no order. Oh, you have gold, though. You do have gold.
You have gold. But you can do it cheaper, right? If you just Falling Star, clear out the Tide Turner and Teemo, and then call on the other side.
True.
That could completely work as well, and it costs a lot less energy. You still wouldn't be able to follow up with anything on this particular turn because that would burn most of the energy that you have available. But then you can just move like Watchful Sentry up after you clear the Forge of the Fluffed, and then call your Sentry in order to trade with that Gearhead, and then move Noxus Hopeful to the other side. And once again, for Rixcee, it's just like, oh, do you have an Accelerate to be able to move again? If not, it'll be 6-4, and you're kind of up a creek with no paddle.
Right, and I'm wondering what the chosen targets were because he decided to bring out the Edge of Night. Maybe the chosen targets was the Gearhead and the Tide Turner, which was a big mistake in this situation. Actually, you know what it is, RMC? This is a little confusing with the UI. I think that Teemo is hidden.
Yep. No, you're right. It was hidden. Yes.
Yeah, so that makes sense. The only available targets were the Gearhead and the Tide Turner, so a bit of a saving grace from that Edge of Night because now, as the play you mentioned, the Call of the Week won't be benefiting from getting the bigger value target, the Gearhead being that. Teemo, you don't want to lose the Teemo, of course, but it is a better target than losing the Gearhead.
Okay. Plus we will eventually get used to this UI.
Yeah,
I could you'll be able to get the developer and change it again.
Second. Actually, it looks like did he flip it just now? Because it looks like it's definitely is visible to both players as we speak. So maybe he flipped it on there. But as I mentioned,
the Tide Turner died, so they had to use it before lose it.
Of course, that's why it is at +4 might because of the ability when you play it get +3. But as I said before, guys, I am working with or trying to work with the TCG. We're in talks, I will say, of trying to get a little bit better to only reveal the hand. That way, the hidden cards can be a little bit more hidden and easily understandable to the spectators at home, I mean, we could still hover over them and see it for the cast, but just to be a little bit easier, because we were a little confused that the Teemo wasn't hidden before he opened it.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, Rek'Sai now being tapped with the Conquer, looking for options there. I think that's an Honest Broker. Yep, that's the Honest Broker. So you can play that kind of for free. And again, you can still call to remove the Gearhead, and I think that's probably the safest play. Watching that Gearhead with the double equipment, and look, if I'm Heretic, I'm worried about Boots of Swiftness coming down and that Gearhead just bouncing back and forth with the additional might. So there we go. There's the Call to Meek to get rid of the Gearhead.
Wow, what an impactful turn this Rek'Sai player just had, able to remove the entire board state from Teemo. I mean, what did he have? The Tide Turner Teemo, Gearhead with the Edge of Night, just a 1-2-3 punch, every single thing he had, the Falling Star into the call, and then what was it before that was able to... No, I guess it was he pushed forward with the unit 8 killing the... Wait, how did he kill the Teemo? Was it the Noxus Hopeful? That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 4 for 4 trade. And so considering that Heretic just had the surprise Teemo kind of sprung on him, yeah, it's great that he was able to kind of clear everything anyways. So he's still in a very, very strong position. And now the shoe's on the other foot. Rixcee needs units desperately.
Oh yeah, looking at the hand, that's just a rebuke, 2 Edge of Nights, just equipment and spells. You're not able to get any points on the board with just that. So I think Rek'Sai gonna be pulling ahead. It was a little bit neck and neck, but Rek'Sai going up to 6 total points. He could kind of just play it a bit slow. He has 8 total runes. If you really want to play it nice and slow, you don't even have to push the pace all that much. You're at 6, you know, you could probably just develop the back line, play out the Darius, play out the Hopeful, and then the next turn, they most likely don't have anything that can accelerate onto a battlefield. I could only think of things like Sprite Mother, things of that nature. I think Rek'Sai might have just pulled this one out.
I mean, there's the drop order and pit crew that Rixcee could potentially get, and that's why they're probably holding the Edge of Night so that they could ready a pit crew potentially. He says you play pit crew, play and ready. For now though, Rebuke kicking the Darius back to hand. We saw the Rek'Sai ability or Rek'Sai ability being used and managed to fish out the Seal of Rage there. Actually, how did... Okay, oh, the Conquer. Right.
Yeah, the Honest Broker Conquer. So he does play it out for free, allowing the ready to inner readied. So a little bit of a greedy push. It wasn't absolutely necessary. I was more a fan of just kind of playing out the Darius, playing out the Hopeful, and then seeing it. But it pretty much would have been a similar situation because Teemo would have still had a Rebuke for the following turn when the Darius does end up getting pushed forward.
Oh, and it looks like they finally got a unit for Rixcee. Was the Ember Monk, but plus it's looking like a scoop because you can't accelerate the Ember Monk. You needed something that could move up, that could clear right away, or else it was GG. But yeah, really unfortunate for Rixcee. Really well played from Heretic.